Welcome to Husqvarna Forest and Garden video tips and techniques. Today we're going to take a look at some basics of safe chainsaw operation. We'll cover the use of personal protective gear, the safety features of your Husqvarna saw, what you need to know before you begin cutting, and finally, some techniques to make your cutting experience safer and more productive. A chainsaw is a powerful tool that must always be operated with respect and understanding. And proper and safe operation begins long before you ever start the engine. Whether you're using your saw to fell trees, cut firewood, trim trees, or clean up your yard, you should always think of safety first. Safe chainsaw operations begin by protecting yourself. Husqvarna has produced a full array of personal protective gear designed to increase your safety. Anytime you're working with trees or limbs overhead, a hard hat should be used. The hard hat can protect you from falling debris or limbs as you work. This hat is outfitted with a face shield designed to protect your face from flying objects like wood chips. And even though this shield covers your eyes, it's not designed as eye protection. As with all power tools, safety glasses should be used at all times during saw operations. Here's an item that's often overlooked but very important to your personal safety: ear protection. Although Husqvarna has produced some of the quietest operating saws available and continues to engineer improvements in noise reduction, prolonged operation of a saw without ear protection may expose the operator to ear damage. It's also known that noise is a leading cause of fatigue. With the use of earplugs or muffs, you can not only reduce the likelihood of ear damage, but you'll also lessen the likelihood of noise-related operator fatigue, thus making your cutting experience safer. Proper leg protection is another important element of personal protection. Leg protection comes in many styles. There are the basic apron-style chaps that cover the front of your legs. There are also wraparound-style chaps that also help protect the back of your legs. And there is the full pant style for maximum protection. These leg protectors will not in all cases prevent an injury from happening, but they're all designed to lessen the severity of an injury in the likelihood that a running saw was to make contact with your leg. They work like this. The chaps are filled with warp-knit nylon. If a chain comes into contact with a pant leg, this material is pulled into the chain and quickly binds the chain and stops it from moving. To complete your leg protection, we recommend the use of a good steel-toed leather boot. Husqvarna's recommended safety boots are made with a chainsaw-resistant material that impedes cutting if a running saw accidentally makes contact with the boot. Also, you'll find that a good boot will provide a lug sole to give you better support and a sure grip. Finally, we complete our safety gear with the use of proper hand protection. Either gloves or mittens designed with chainsaw-resistant materials will work. You may find that mittens will give you a more sure grip, but choose whichever provides you the most comfort. Now that we've covered your personal safety, it's time to review the safety features of your saw. Saw safety begins by choosing the right tool for your job. Your Husqvarna servicing dealer can help you choose the right saw for your application. Regardless of the Husqvarna saw you choose, each is designed for operator safety. Prior to operating your saw, each of the safety features should be checked. If there seems to be any question at all, please consult your Husqvarna servicing dealer for assistance. Each Husqvarna chainsaw is designed with a chain brake, a throttle interlock control, and a chain stop. The chain brake, as the name suggests, is a brake system for your saw. It's designed to stop the chain from moving and is helpful in normal and emergency situations. When starting a saw or walking with a running saw, it can act as a parking brake. While cutting, it can be used to stop the chain movement when repositioning the saw for your next cut. And of course, in the event of a kickback, the brake is used to stop the chain quickly. Here's one way to check that the inertia chain brake properly engages. Prior to starting the saw, hold the saw approximately 14 inches above a stump or other hard surface. Holding the rear handle, release the front handle and let the saw bar fall. Upon contact with a hard surface, the chain brake should engage. Be sure that once you start your saw to check that the brake is fully and properly functional. If the chain still slips with the brake engaged, please check your manual or consult your dealer for proper adjustment. Next, there's the throttle interlock control. This double lock system engages and locks on the throttle to aid in starting your saw. Also, because of its unique design, it acts as yet another safety feature. Since both the top and bottom lever need to be engaged for the trigger to operate and rev the saw, proper operation cannot be performed without a correct hand grip on the saw. Finally, before we start the saw, check the chain stop. This seemingly small piece plays an important role in saw safety. If the chain were to break or come loose and fall off during operation, the chain stop reduces the likelihood of a free-flying chain hitting the operator. Once you've checked that each of the safety features are in proper working order, remove the air filter cover and check that the air filter is clean. With Husqvarna's exclusive air injection system, you'll find your filter needs much less cleaning than with other saws. However, it's a good idea to check your saw each time before you start your work. Now it's time to start up the saw and make sure it's running at peak performance. Let's follow Tim Ard, professional logger trainer with Soren Eriksson's Game of Logging, as he performs these steps. There are two proper methods for starting a chainsaw. If starting the saw from the ground, choose a firm, level area and be sure the area around your saw is free of sticks and other loose debris. Next, turn on the ignition switch. Be sure the chain brake is on and the throttle latch is engaged. Then grip the front handle firmly with your left hand and either place your right knee across the top of the cylinder housing or your right foot in the rear handle. Finally, pull the starter cord with a smooth, quick motion and hold the handle as the rope retracts. Your saw may also be started from a standing position. Again, turn on the ignition switch. Be sure the chain brake is on and the throttle latch is engaged. Then grip the front handle firmly with your left hand, extending your left arm fully. Lock the saw between your left thigh and behind your right knee. Then pull the starter cord with a smooth, quick motion and hold the handle as the rope retracts. After starting the saw, listen to hear if it is running at the proper RPMs. With the saw running at idle, check to see that the chain is not creeping. It should not move at idle. Also, check to see that the saw runs in any position while in idle. Finally, make sure the saw accelerates smoothly as you press the throttle. Taking care that you and your saw are ready should be done before you ever start to cut. With that taken care of, it's time to begin. The first step to safe cutting is to make a plan. By gathering the right information, you can assure yourself of a safer, more successful cutting experience. Once you have decided on the tree you are going to fell, you start by looking for any possible hazards. Step back about 30 feet from the tree and look for any dead limbs or sections of the tree which may fall while you cut. Are there any dead or rotten trees nearby that could accidentally fall near you? If so, they should be removed prior to cutting. Are there any power lines, people, pets, or houses nearby that need to be considered in your plan? Are there any vines that might have grown between trees which could accidentally pull down unwanted branches or even full trees? Once you're sure that you've considered all possible hazards, it's time to continue with your plans. You need to determine the height of the tree and be sure that you have enough room to safely fell it. Does the tree have any lean? If so, always work from the good side, away from the lean. Also, check to see that you have a safe escape route, void of any obstacles. Your escape route should be in a 45-degree angle away from your felling direction. To finalize your plan, you need to determine exactly how you're going to cut the tree. Although there are several methods of cutting being used in the field, we suggest using the open face and hinge method as taught in Soren Eriksson's Game of Logging training program. This is the method now being accepted by professionals as the most reliable way to fell a tree. Here's how and why it works. The open face method of cutting, as the name suggests, employs the use of a broad opening at the face of the tree. Then, using a bore cut to cut through the tree, a hinge is created that will direct the tree safely to the ground. Since this was a slightly forward-leaning tree, once the bore cut is nearly complete, Tim leaves a small piece of holding wood in the back of the tree. Then makes a final cut and releases the tree from behind. The open face method provides a higher degree of control and accuracy than most other methods of cutting. The three most common face cutting techniques include the Humboldt, the common, and the open face. As you can see, the Humboldt notch closes and stops working before the tree is close to the ground. This means the tree will snap free and you will no longer have control of the direction of the fall. The same is true for the common notch. Now, let's look at the open face notch. The tree will nearly reach the ground before closing the notch. This allows the hinge to steer the tree safely and accurately. Properly using the open face and hinge method often requires the use of a bore cut. The bore cut uses the bar and chain to bore through the tree, leaving a hinge to guide the tree to the ground. As this drawing illustrates, the bore cut creates an equal hinge the width of the tree. For most trees, the hinge should be 10% of the total tree diameter. As you can see, the bore cut does not start by pushing the tip of the bar into the tree. Instead, the initial cut and entrance is made with the bottom of the bar, then rotated to the tip to complete the cut. Proper use of the areas of the saw blade is essential to safe cutting. Various areas of the blade react differently when they make contact with the log. The three reactive forces are push, kick, and pull. Each of these forces is a reaction to the motion of the chain. If you make contact with a log on the top portion of the bar and chain, in reaction to the chain movement, it will push the saw away from the log. If you make contact with the tip of the bar and chain, it will tend to kick upward. When you make contact with the bottom portion of the bar and chain, it will pull you into the wood. By knowing how the different areas of the bar and chain will react and utilizing a good firm grip on the saw, you'll be able to use these forces to make your cutting easier. As you can see, by beginning the bore cut with the bottom of the bar and chain, it pulls the saw into the trunk, thus using the reactive force to assist in the cut. As Tim cuts another tree, let's observe some of the things we've learned. Once he has chosen his tree, he starts by determining his felling direction. Next, he steps back about 30 feet and takes more information. He looks for hazards. Once all potential hazards have been dealt with, he determines whether the tree has any lean. Next, he determines his escape route and plans his cut. Using the top of his saw as a sight, he lines up and makes the face cut. Notice that the cut is more than 90 degrees to allow for plenty of notch for felling. Next, he makes the bore cut, leaving a 10% hinge to guide the tree to the ground. Observe how he uses the pulling action of the bottom of the bar to begin and guide the bore cut. Finally, he releases the holding wood and retreats from the trunk at a 45-degree angle, at least 12 feet as the tree falls. A job well done. With most things, they say practice makes perfect. But with cutting and felling, no two trees are alike, nor will they react alike. So in this case, practice makes improvement. I'm sure you'll find these techniques helpful for taking down a tree. But what do you do once it's on the ground? When bucking and limbing a tree, many of the same rules as felling a tree apply. Mainly, no two limbs or trunks react the same, and always think safety first. Limbing a tree starts with taking information. Look above and around you. Are there any limbs or trees which could accidentally fall in your working area? Next, check to see if the tree may have twisted as it fell. Could it possibly roll or twist again as you begin to cut? Is the tree lying flat? If not, what parts of the tree are suspended and where are the areas of stress and pressure? Check the tree stump. If the tree left the stump, did it slide forward, possibly causing back pressure on the limbs? And finally, with every limb, make a plan. Be sure you determine what is likely to happen with each cut you make. It's important to utilize techniques that will slow down the cutting process, which will increase your reaction time, lessening the possibility of losing control. Once you've gathered your information, it's time to begin cutting. Let's take a look at some of the more common situations and discuss some of the techniques available to make your cutting safer. One common situation is finding a limb where back pressure may be present. If you were to just cut through the limb, you'd have no way of knowing whether or which direction the limb might snap. As Tim demonstrates, the use of a limb lock releases the pressure on the branch, making it safer to remove. Once he finds a safe area to stand, he begins by making a cut about 1/3 of the way through the inside of the joint. Then he cuts about 1/3 of the way through the outside of the joint area. As this graphic shows, once the cuts are made, if pressure is present, the limb should snap slowly into a Z formation, reducing the pressure. However, anytime pressure is present, it's impossible to determine exactly how a limb cut will react, so always proceed with caution. The limb can now be safely removed. Another very common situation is finding a limb suspended in the air. Even though it may be clear what direction the branch will fall when cut, it's important to control the speed of the fall, giving time for you to react and escape. As Tim demonstrates, begin by cutting a notch in the bottom of the limb. Then cut slowly from above until the limb begins to fall. Once you complete limbing, it's time to buck the log. Again, before you start cutting, try to imagine what's going to happen. Look for stresses on the log and make a plan to cut in such a way that the guide bar will not get pinched. If the log is sitting so that the pressure appears to be on the top, begin with the top cut. Cut approximately 1/3 of the log diameter. Then finish with a bottom cut. The cuts should meet. If the log is sitting so that the pressure appears to be on the bottom, begin with a bottom cut. This cut should be about 1/3 of the log diameter. Then finish with the top cut. Again, the saw cut should meet. You'll find these basic techniques will help you in most situations. Just remember to take the time to determine what the reaction of the log will be before you begin to cut. If you should accidentally get your saw stuck, do not try to pull the saw free. This can not only damage the saw, but possibly cause an injury if the saw is suddenly released. Instead, stop the engine. Release the pressure by raising the log or changing its position. Use a thick branch or a pole as a lever if necessary. Once again, let's follow Tim Ard as he demonstrates a few other helpful techniques. Here, Tim demonstrates a simple way to section a log that is sitting on the ground without running his chain into the dirt. He begins by cutting 1/2 to 2/3 of the way through the log. Then simply rolls it over to complete the cut from the opposite side. Finally, as Tim shows here, wedges can be quite helpful in relieving stress in order to complete the cut. Well, that just about completes our basic training. We hope you found this tape to be informative and helpful. Just remember, when you use your saw, always be fully prepared and think safety first. It starts by protecting yourself with the proper protective apparel: hard hat, ear and eye protection, leg and foot protection. Next, see that your saw is properly functioning. Check the chain brake, the throttle interlock control, and the chain stop. Also check to see that your air filter is clean. With the saw running, check the RPMs. Make sure the chain does not creep at idle and look for smooth acceleration. Finally, when you're ready to cut, whether you're felling, limbing, or bucking, be sure to make a cutting plan. Check for hazards. When felling, determine your felling direction, tree lean. When bucking or limbing, determine the reaction of the log to your cutting plan. Determine an escape route, and using all of the information you've gathered, decide on the best cutting techniques for each situation. Once you've taken care of these steps, then and only then is it time to begin cutting. We hope all of your cutting experiences are safe and successful. If you have any questions regarding the proper use or operation of your saw, contact your servicing Husqvarna dealer. He'll help you determine the best saw for your needs, properly set up your saw so that it operates at peak performance, and he'll assist you in maintaining your saw so that it continues to operate at peak performance throughout the life of the tool. Your Husqvarna servicing dealer is your chainsaw expert. Husqvarna offers a complete line of personal protective gear designed to enhance your safety. Husqvarna also produces a full range of chainsaw accessories to make every cutting job safer and easier. Ask your servicing Husqvarna dealer for help in choosing the right products for you and your job. Also look to your Husqvarna servicing dealer to supply you with the most comprehensive line of forest and garden equipment in the world. Chainsaws that meet the needs of every user, from the homeowner to the logging professional. Walk-behind mowers, riding mowers, and tractors with a range of features to suit every lawn and every operator. Tillers, cultivators, edgers, and blowers. Specialized cutting tools, hedge trimmers, grass trimmers, brush cutters, and clearing saws. All Husqvarna products are designed with a dedication to excellence. Excellence in design, excellence in manufacture, excellence in service to you. To find out more, visit your servicing Husqvarna dealer.